The prevalence of narcissists that walk among us has been highlighted over the past 5 or so years in ways that I think most of us could never have even projected. When you're going through narcissistic abuse, you don't know usually that that's the thing you're going through. It's different than the regular difficulties of raising a child or dealing with a parent or in a spousal or work situation. All relationships have challenges, but there's something peculiarly difficult, hurtful, harmful, and destructive that you recognize in the dynamic you're in when you learn that the creature you're dealing with actually has a category, that their cluster of behaviors are categorized and known and really explain what was previously unexplainable. Particularly for the starseeds, the chosen ones, the anointed, etc., whichever label you'd like to put on it. For ease of communication, I'll just say the highly empathic person. Upon reflection of this diabolical spirit that has entered your life, what happens is your third eye is opening, tapping you on the shoulder, and you're realizing that not only was it the catalyst narcissist who brought you to your knees, an evil entity in your life, but that you've been dealing with this for many years, in most cases since childhood, from different angles. And now that you're awakened, you're seeing the toxic behaviors more than ever before. When I chat with people on this subject, one of the common threads is the narcissists are everywhere. They're everywhere. I can't stand it. I can't take it anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. Right? Rightfully so. Because those who do the deep work understand as they are on the awakening path, and especially once ascension begins, you recognize that this is not about the faces or the places, right? That this is about spiritual warfare. And that because of the light that you carry, the darkness is chasing the light, and it materializes through different people. So what do you do about it? Right? I talk about the Lord. I love Christ. So I talk about God and righteousness and these sorts of things. And other people do too, because that is our safety, right? He gives us coverage. But what does that actually mean, right? Well, there's many posts that speak to spiritual practices and countless that talk about the walk. But I'm a strong and avid believer in the work that Carl Jung anointed our lives with. It's interesting because, seeing that Freud trained him, which I have strongly different perspectives than Freud. I believe that Carl Jung ascended Freud's teachings, and in his many works, he speaks about the self. And at the core of the abuse experienced for the highly empathic person administered by the narcissist is this overgiving of oneself to others. It's not about people pleasing, which you hear a lot of people say. It's not about that. It's that highly empathic people are focused on getting things done. They are usually pretty passionate about harmony, and whatever it is that they can do to usher in that harmony for those around them, they try to, at the expense of caring for themselves. And this is something that they've done since childhood. The challenge is, by doing so, we are tapping into our own ego, right? Which is the thing that dies as you ascend after awakening. Many people talk about the ego death and so forth, and it's a real thing, and it's a must. But even with ego death, the NPDs will still come for you, right? The difference is when you do the deep work that I've often spoken about. It's the shadow work. It is looking at the intricacies of your life, how you feel, how you think, but going a layer further and looking at the why. And when you get to the why, it usually has a long tail, and then you've got to examine it and then behave your way out of the things that made you default. So it may sound easy, but it is quite a quite a tremendous amount of dedication and work, and exhausting, and it can be extremely emotionally and psychologically taxing. I don't know that everybody's even capable of doing it, because it is a lot. But it's a requirement. Now, what happens as you do the shadow work is diving deep into understanding and integrating your unconscious traits. It will repel NPDs. You will foster self-awareness and emotional independence in a way that you just haven't to date. It's confronting your own insecurities, your own fears, your own triggers that builds you a stronger sense of self, and thus the boundaries that you waffled on, wafered on, whatever the word is, in the past that were soft, those erected boundaries become firm. And the NPD creatures, they thrive on exploiting emotional vulnerability and codependency. But when you recognize and neutralize those hooks, they're not going to be interested in fucking with you. The thing that attracts any NPD, that part is out of your control, because all people, all types, creatures, etc., are drawn to the light. It's your response to those who are drawn to you that determines what happens next, right? Because you ever notice that there are some people who deal with the NPD and their life is less impacted than yours was? Well, it's because they keep the creatures at a distance, only interacting when it's absolutely necessary, and avoiding any real intimacy or deep connection with the demon. And that's because they haven't signaled to the creature that it's open season. Your kindness, your warmth, your loving nature, those are all things that are exploited by toxic individuals and absolutely destroyed by narcissistic psychopaths. When you become less reactive to their manipulative tactics, right? When you are not responding to or being drawn in to the gaslighting, the love bombing, any of it, the future faking, when there's nothing for them to grab onto, because you're grounded in your truth, that repels the NPD. By healing your complex post-traumatic stress disorder, by doing your shadow work, you project a level of confidence and authenticity which narcissists tend to avoid. They will still, and they may still try, but they prefer targets who are easier to influence, control, manipulate, right? Like that is why they love bomb. So if you are impressed by their adoration for you, the way that they roll out the red carpet, the love, like all the things that can happen from the, some people will say, I never got the love bombing stage, but you did. You may not recognize it the way other people explain it, because every scenario is unique to the individuals, right? But an NPD creature can't hook you unless there is some tapping into your energy and spirit. It might just be that you're an extremely helpful person. That person is extremely needy and maybe toxic from the beginning, but sold you enough of a sob story that made you empathize with them. Remember, you're high in empathy, and subsequently they got in. You emit a light that if you keep your boundaries firm, the creatures won't be able to handle. If you're self-assured, you're less appealing. And if you're nurturing your inner self, the creatures will likely stay clear of you. Do your shadow work.